Unless you're into steampunk, radiators are ugly. They're obtrusive, often beat up, sometimes have crud on them, and for half the year, useless. You can paint them, sure, but that doesn't mean you can put your skin or scotch on them. So since practical is beautiful, I'm going to show you how to build your own radiator cover. By the end of this project, you'll know how to properly size a cover, how to plan out your everyday 4x8 foot sheet of plywood, how to actually assemble the cover, and how to add touches like a rounded edge and metal screening. This how-to project is aimed at people just above the beginner level. You own or you have easy access to the tools needed. But here's how you really know if this is the right level for you. Are you willing to go to the hardware store and ask an employee where the plywood is? Because if you don't know where the plywood is, you're a beginner. But if you're willing to ask, you're experienced enough. A printable list of everything you need is available online. But there's one non-standard tool I recommend getting, which is a Kreg jig that makes connecting large pieces of wood at right angles a cinch, and I'll show you how in a bit. Usually a wood project how-to comes with a cut list, a list of the lengths of wood you'll need, essential for only making one trip to the store. But each radiator is different. Just keep in mind that for this project, you'll end up with 7 total pieces, one for the top, front, left and right sides, and 3 pieces of 1x2 that you'll use underneath the top to help keep it in place. Measure your radiator. Add at least 2 inches to each measurement, giving the cover room to not contact the radiator. Include the pipe and steam valve. Use these measurements to write down the dimensions of the pieces of plywood you'll need. 4 of them. The front panel, left and right panels, and top. For that top piece though, add an extra inch to the width and ½ an inch to the depth. This not only looks better, but creates an overhang so your fingers have something to grab onto whenever you need to get inside the cover. If you plan to route the edges of the top piece, add more to the width and depth, roughly the size of your router bit radius. Go to your local big box hardware store with your measurements and ask the staffer in the wood department to cut you the pieces you need. They'll finish. Then they'll ask you, what do you want to do with the rest? And you'll say the rest, and they'll say, well, you have wood left over from your 4x8 piece sheet. That's when you realize you can have them cut some duplicates with that remainder so that A, you can fit everything in your car, and B, you'll have a little bit left over in case you make some of those first-timer goofs. Now, back at home. Draw a rectangle on the front piece, 3 inches from the top, left and right edges, and 4 inches from the bottom. Grab a jigsaw. Use a straight edge to help align your blade with each of the lines. Make a plunge cut and work your way along the lines, repeating each process for each one. And here you see the completed profile of the cover. You can repeat the cutting and edging process with the side panels, or you can leave them closed if, for example, your radiator is close to curtains or anything that might be damaged over time by heat. Now let's clean things up with some decorative touches. You can fancy up your edges with a router, or even glue a piece of cord around. Just keep in mind with the router, you'll see the layers of plywood. So only do this if you're planning to paint the cover. If the wall behind your radiator has floor molding, you'll need to use a scribe and jigsaw to carve its profile out of your radiator cover sides. Keep the pieces just off the floor. If you can reach both sides, scribe them separately, since they're not always even. Otherwise, transfer the outline from one piece to the other. The fun part about this? When you have base or shoe molding, the back end of the radiator sits on it, leaving the whole thing perfectly flush with the wall and molding from top to bottom. Test the pieces for fit and refine the cut if needed. Using a Kreg jig, drill pocket screw holes along the inside of the left and right edges of the front piece. Drill at least 3 holes on each edge to give it lateral strength. Most woodworkers, after liking the fit, would take the pieces back apart and add a bead of wood glue to the edge and reconnect them. But some may prefer to forego the glue in order to replace the panel should it ever get damaged. Complete the final piece, the top. Here's where we test if you looked over the whole thing before starting, like you're supposed to. Back when you're buying wood, cut that 1x2 you got to a length that will let 3 sections of 1x2 fit just inside the top and the other pieces. These will act as cleats, holding the top in place. Glue and clamp them. Add adhesive edge banding to any exposed plywood edges. Paint or stain the cover with an appropriate product. Cut aluminum screening to dimensions an inch or so larger than the cutout. Use a stapler to attach the screening on the inside, being sure to pull the screening tight before each staple goes in. Cut an aluminum sheet to a size that fits within the dimensions of the entire cover. Simply lean this against the wall behind the radiator to reflect heat back into the room. Now cut and glue 2 small right-angle pieces. These will go at the bottom to help keep the radiator square and give you a place to install the leveling feet. Put the radiator cover in place and adjust those feet. Finally, if you have small kids, secure the cover to the wall. In this case, I have plaster walls, so it needs wall anchors for strength. And here's your final piece. Properly installed, safe, and now only one place for your scotch to go.